Hello, my name's Doug Bowie. This is my dissertation instrument, VRIPS, Virtual Reality IP Subnet Calculator. What I've designed is a subnet calculator for undergraduates and graduate students to learn IPv4 subnetting. Subnetting is a primarily virtual concept with very little that touch and feel in the real world. So in the virtual environment, I can create virtual manipulatables that have properties very similar to what IP networks would be. This is traditionally done on a piece of paper with a lot of lecture and a lot of practice. The hope is that with this tool we'll be able to help students understand and build the cognitive scaffolding a little faster to understand how this works. And to do that, we've got a problem description on the chalkboard in front of us and a whiteboard that represents that same problem off to the right. In front of us is a stick that represents an IPv4 network. It's got a network number on it that's the same as our problem description, and it's got a subnet mask and an N number which represents how many IP addresses are in that stick. The left-hand chalkboard is so that when I hover over it, you can see my ghostly hand, or if I pick it up, you'll be able to obtain more information about the network that's in your hand. The networks themselves have no weight, so they tend to stay right where you put them. To answer questions, I've got solution rings, and our question asked for LAN 1 and LAN 2, so we have 2 solution rings. There are 10 questions. There are up to 8 solution rings, so the problems get more complicated as we go. The main menu here resets the primary network, so we hit the reset button and it'll reset the network. We can dial up the level if we want to skip levels and jump around. The D button allows us to turn on some debug information about what's in each ring, and right now they're empty, so there's nothing in it. We can turn that off, and S will turn on and off the scoring panel here in case you wanted to work with the calculator but didn't want to worry about the score. We'll talk a little about score here in a minute once we've done a little manipulating of the networks. So as we turn back, you can see I've got the network in front of me, and I can grab it and pick it up with 2 hands and manipulate it, much like a very large 2x4 or 4x4. And I should be able to make a sharp motion, and that will subnet or break the stick into 2 smaller pieces. And they follow the rules of subnetting. And in this way, the students can get a feel for how does subnetting work, because the sticks will only break in certain ways, much like networking would work. And you can see here I got 2 networks of size 126. My original network was size 254, and in the breaking we lose IP addresses, and that's part of the design process that we're trying to work with students to understand. All right, so as I stick it into each of the solution rings, we can see that scoring begins to happen in the solution rings. So we push them along, and we put them in there. There we go, push them along. And you can see here the scoring panel lights up once the ring has something in it. If I grab it and pull it out, it'll unscore it, and as we put it back in, it'll put the score back in there. A perfect score in this context is 0. The idea is to teach a student to be the most efficient with the network. There is no right answer in many cases. There is only answers that do and do not answer the question, which sounds correct, but there are multiple answers, and some answers are more efficient than others. So scoring is designed to encourage efficiency. The fewest numbers of networks per ring without any wasted IP addresses. Remember how I said there was so many, N equals 126? In this case, each one of the rings wants 126 IPs. Now, our question description doesn't show that. This is a beginning question, and is not terribly specific about how many IPs go into it. It's just to get them started and beginning to understand what's going on. But if we were to go to question 4, you can see there's now 4 rings, and our question description gets a little more ambiguous. I need 110 and 52 and 8, things like that. I have to begin to pay attention to how many IP addresses I have in each ring, and I may not be able to get to a point where I can get a 0 score. It may not make 0. I may only make the most efficient choice, but still not, quite make it to 0. And that's not unusual. Oops. And we may wind up putting something in every network and still have score in each one. Again, I can go to Submit Network, and that'll record my score. Since we skipped the first couple levels, I don't have any scores, and we would go on to continue, and it would keep my score there. I can also go back if I decide, oh, well, I don't like my current score, it's not very good, I want to try more. I can go back, we can stick something in there and say, oh, well, that's lots of points. I'm going to not do very well. I don't want to do that. I want to go back. So we can go back. We can continue, which will take the score they have and go on. And we can restart, which means, yes, we'll take us all the way back to question 1 and we restart it all together. Or we can hit quit, which will quit the entire application. Thank you for your time. No idea if it was. It doesn't look like it.